Park for a 7-game homestand. It gets started tonight against the Chicago White Sox, who come in winning 3 of their last 4 games. Eric Bedard takes the mound for the Stros, wanting to bounce back from a rough outing in his last start. The Astros and White Sox start a 4-game series next on Comcast Sportsnet. Live from Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, Comcast Sportsnet brings you Houston Astros baseball. Tonight, the Astros open a 4-game series against the Chicago White Sox. Good evening, everybody. Bill Brown and Alan Ashby. The Astros back home after a day off, a much-needed day off because of an overnight flight, and now ready to get it started again at home. Ash?
You talk about an overnight flight. It was also on the heels of 20 consecutive ball games for the club. So I think they clearly deserved that day off.
Oh, very much so. And now a much more rested Astros club takes the mound behind Eric Bedard. Chris Sale is a very worthy mound opponent.
He certainly is that, and that 5-4 mark probably doesn't tell you nearly enough about Chris Sale. But you can see the 192 batting average against. On the left side, left-hand hitters have hit almost 0 against the guy. He is just phenomenal in that regard. So Chris Sale, a very tough customer. Eric Bedard for the Astros got roughed up a little bit his last time out, that at Kansas City. But prior to that, 5 consecutive very nice starts for Bedard. And he dominated the Angels out west. But Eric Bedard has done a very nice job. This is his 12th start of the year. And he's just simply stayed healthy and maybe gotten better and better as he's rolled along.
It's going to be interesting to see which version of Eric, because he can go in different directions with his pitches, which version we get tonight against the White Sox team that did score some runs in the last 4 games, but overall has been disappointing offensively. Ashley.
The numbers have been hideous for the White Sox offensively leading up to this past week. Again, some of the numbers coming along, part of that because Adam Dunn has hit 4 of his 17 home runs in the past week. Paul Konerko is still a very good player, but he's been ailing with a sore back. The numbers on his career would tell you 428 home runs and a 281 lifetime batting average. He is very good. Alex Rios, a talented guy. The numbers are good, but he has tailed off recently in that home run category.
And the White Sox will start 4 left-handed pitchers in this series. Julia will be back to recap the Astros road trip, which ended with quite a 9th inning for the Astros in Seattle. More from Julia Morales in just a moment.
Getting set for a 4-game series against the Chicago White Sox and coming off of a well-deserved day off after 6 games on the road. They started in Kansas City and most recently visited Seattle, losing 2 of 3 to the Mariners. The Astros bats very quiet in these past 2 series. If you look at Seattle in the first game, they lost 3-2 behind Dallas Keuchel's 6 strong innings. And then in the second game, Bud Norris pitched well, but the Astros offense unable to get anything done. Only put up 2 hits, and they were shut out 4-0. Wednesday in the series finale was along that same theme. Jordan Lyles was solid. 10 strikeouts for this guy, over 7. No runs allowed. How about that performance? But no run support for these guys until the 9th. They were down 1-0. Chris Carter breaking things up with a 2-run double there to put the Astros on top 2-1. Didn't stop there. Brandon Barnes with an RBI single, scoring Carlos Pena. They made it 3-run. And then Jose Altuve with another knock to score 2. It was an offensive explosion for these Astros as they put up 6 runs in the 9th. And Bo Porter, the manager, said it's never too late, and he was absolutely right. It made for a happy flight home and a very nice day off for these guys. So we'll see what the Astros can do after a day off, opening a 4-game series tonight with the White Sox. Eric Bedard, Chris Sale will face off when we return. First pitch and lineups coming up.
By Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. By Jack in the Box. Try Jack's Big Stack Burger. 2 jumbo beef patties stacked with onion rings, cheese, and pickles. And by Progressive. Visit progressive.com today. It has been a sizzling day outside. Mid-90s again in Houston, Texas. And the Chicago White Sox are paying their first regular season visit here to Minute Maid Park since 2000. Of course, they did meet in the 2005 World Series, and the White Sox swept that 4-game series. As they come back here, they have 28 wins, 35 losses. They're 7.5 games back in last place in the AL Central right now, a rather tightly packed division. There were high hopes for the Chicago club coming into this season after doing so well until the last week of the season last year with Detroit overtaking Robin Ventura's club. Robin, by the way, has been named an all-star coach for Jim Leyland for the upcoming game next month. But right now, just trying to preside over a turnaround on the Sox. Robin, the only current manager to be drafted and play for the team he manages. And as he takes his club into this game tonight, he does so with 28 wins and 35 losses for the White Sox. And here's his lineup card for this game. The leadoff man is second baseman Gordon Beckham, with Alexi Ramirez at shortstop, Alex Rios in right field, Paul Konerko at first base. Adam Dunn, the DH. Diane Viciedo in left field. Jeff Keppinger at third base. Casper Wells in center field. Tyler Flowers is the catcher.
On the hill for the Astros, Eric Bedard, 34-year-old left-hander, 1-3 on the year, 5.34 the ERA. Last start, that in Kansas City against the Royals, and got roughed up a bit in that one. And walked a few in the ball game. 6 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. But the first rough one that Eric Bedard has had for quite a while. 5 good starts prior.
Start of a 7-game homestand for the Astros, and Gordon Beckham is waiting for the first pitch. He takes it, and it's strike one. It's Paul Nauert behind the plate for this game. Beckham, starting the night at .314, has no homers, 2 runs batted in. He's been down with an injury. He had a broken bone in his left wrist and missed about 6 weeks. And that one's a ball outside for a 1-1 count on Beckham, who was a first-round pick of the White Sox in 2008. He was the 8th player drafted that year, native of Atlanta, Georgia. And he went to the University of Georgia, where he hit .411 as a junior with 28 homers. Beckham puts it in the air, and it goes back into right center field for Brandon Barnes for out number 1.
Defensively for the Astros tonight, Eric Bedard, of course, on the hill. He'll be working with Carlos Corporon behind the dish around the infield. Chris Carter at first, Jose Altuve at second, Ronnie Cedeno and Matt Dominguez on the left side. And in the outfield, Brandon Barnes in center, flanked by Jimmy Paredes in right. Trevor Crowe will be in left.
And with the left-hander Chris Sale on the mound, that has necessitated a little bit different look to Bo Porter's lineup. Alexei Ramirez is the batter. And he goes for the first one, puts it in the air foul over into the seats in the orange-clad area. A lot of folks are wearing their orange on big and bright Friday night.
Nice look in the stands tonight.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Colorful group. This is the first of a 4-game series. Then Milwaukee comes in for 3. Eric Bedard in his career is 3-2 against the White Sox. His ERA is 3.90 against them. He bounces that breaking pitch for a 1-ball, 1-strike count. White Sox have scored 23 runs in their last 4 games. They won 3 of those 4, but are dead last in the American League in runs scored. Ramirez has driven in 13. He has scored 25. Does not walk a whole lot. That's a pretty good looking pitch, but Paul Nauert calls ball 2.
Yeah, I think Eric Bedard anticipated the call right here. You try to put it at the bottom of the knees, and when you do, sometimes you don't get that call. It's tough to take.
Well, he brings that one in for strike 2, and that evens the count at 2-2 for Eric, who was a little bit off his game in that last start, as Ash mentioned, at Kansas City. But prior to that, he beat the Angels on the road 2-1 with a beauty. He went 7 innings in that one. And now it's a full count on Alexei Ramirez. Alex Rios on deck.
One of those full counts where you're actually putting a number of pitches right where you want. Trying to find the bottom of the knees, find out where that spot's going to be throughout the evening.
And a swing and a miss gets Bedard out number 2.
When a ball club is struggling offensively, a lot of times they're not hitting pitches that are right there, and that one was right there. I think Eric Bedard might have been surprised to see the swing and a miss.
Alex Rios has put together a 7-game hitting streak. Ramirez retired for out number 2. Rios at .293 comes to the plate with good credentials this season. Gets up on that left toe. There's strike 1 to the former Toronto Blue Jay. He was a first-round pick of the Jays, and he's driven in 33 this year. He was a waiver claim by the White Sox in August of 2009. They picked up a huge contract when they claimed Rios. That's in for strike 2 to Alex Rios, who last year drove in 91 for the Sox. He's from Coffee, Alabama.
Cito Gaston was the manager of the White Sox, of the Blue Jays, when Rios signed a big deal, and Gaston said this is a future Hall of Famer.
Altuve retires the man who was referred to as a future Hall of Famer, in a 1-2-3 first. Porter's lineup card for a club of 23 wins, 44 losses starts with Brandon Barnes in center field. Jose Altuve's at second base. The DH is J.D. Martinez. It's Carlos Corporan, the cleanup man and catcher. Chris Carter at first. Ronnie Cedeno at short. Jimmy Paredes in right field. Matt Dominguez at third base. Trevor Crowe, the left fielder.
On the hill, a very tough customer, a youngster, Chris Sale, left-hander, and he has one of the better starting left-handers' arms in terms of velocity. 5-4. That means nothing. ERA very good at 2.68. He gives up very few hits in the innings pitched, doesn't walk many. That whip below 1 will tell you a ton about how tough this guy is.
That really does speak volumes. And he has a very difficult delivery, as you can see from that arm angle. And it's strike one to Brandon Barnes, a 280 hitter with 3 homers. 15 runs batted in for Brandon. He has a 336 on base average.
How about that first fastball of the night at 95 miles an hour?
Well, of course, fans have seen him pitch that way in relief with the high octane, but last year as he went back into the rotation, he showed that he can be effective there, going 17-8 with a 3.05 ERA.
Comes right off of that fastball, brings a changeup 10 miles an hour slower than the heater. Pretty lethal combination.
And that wicked slider gets a swing and a miss, and the throw down to first by Tyler Flowers for the strikeout.
Now, Brandon Barnes has seen 3 of Sale's pitches already, none of which seem to be hittable. Now, when you talk left-handers and their average fastball, Chris Sale ranks second. It's a kind of a tiny list, but Clayton Kershaw is a pretty well-known commodity now with the Dodgers, and Sale right with that left-hander.
Jose Altuve comes up in the number 2 spot. He went 3 for 12 in the Seattle series with 3 runs batted in. There's ball 1 to Altuve. And as difficult as Sale has been in those numbers that Ash spoke to, certainly point up how really rough he's been, especially on left-handed batters. Altuve is one of the Astros right-handed hitters who has done well against southpaws in general. This is a special southpaw who has allowed 53 hits in 77 2/3 innings. Not just any average left-hander. Liner to left field, and that will be in for a hit in front of Viciedo. Altuve gets the bat through on the 2-0 pitch and collects the first hit of the game.
Defensively, behind Chris Sale, Tyler Flowers behind the dish, not known for the defensive capabilities. Around the infield, Paul Konerko, Gordon Beckham, Alexi Ramirez, and Jeff Keppinger, who is starting to pick it up with the bat. He's at third. And the outfield, Casper Wells, recently acquired. He's flanked by Alex Rios in right and Dion Viciedo in left.
Now it's J.D. Martinez, who's hit in 14 of his last 16 games. DHing tonight. That's ball one to Martinez on a 5-game hitting streak, a .271 average, 6 homers, 24 runs batted in for JD. He's hit .308 in his last 29 games with 17 runs batted in. And it's a 1-ball-1-strike count. Just checking the positioning of the shortstop, Alexi Ramirez. He is really shallower than the normal double play depth, isn't he, Ash?
You would certainly think so. Clearly he's playing in, and what I would anticipate when I see this depth at short and second is that a speedster's at the plate. But with JD there, it just doesn't add up.
A little unusual. 1 ball, 2 strikes. It's not as if a right-handed batter can point to a lot of success against Chris Sale. Right-handers are hitting .220 against him this year.
Well, he just simply dominates. And I can see a real good reason why with this terrific-looking changeup. You already talk about a guy who throws hard, throws strikes, and then mix in that change and that slider that he's picked a strikeout up with already.
And that's a strikeout, number 2.
Deadly combination with the Astros inclined to strike out anyway, and Sale on the hill just throwing hard here in the first inning and spotting it well.
Sale's last start was a week ago. He lost to Oakland 4-3, giving up 4 runs in 7 1/3 innings. And the big mistake he made was a grand slam to Josh Donaldson. Other than that, he pitched a fine game. Now Carlos Corcoran at .321 with 4 homers, has driven in 10. Hit well against lefties. That's ball 1. And Sale had given up just 4 earned runs in his previous 4 starts. Gave up that many in the last start, but has not had run support this season. That's why the 5 wins and 4 losses, despite the 2.68 ERA, 6th best ERA in the American League.
There's a tack on the fact that the White Sox are 12 games under .500 and not a good offensive club. That's going to set up poorly for anybody pitching on that staff.
It sure is. Robin Ventura's club trying to claw its way back into the AL Central, as it did for much of the season last year, leading that division. And the young catcher Tyler Flowers is part of the process for the White Sox. No more A.J. Pierzynski. He's moved on to the Texas Rangers. Runner going, swing and a miss. Flowers with the throw. Not in time. The throw was over the bag, but Altuve got in before the tag by Beckham for his 11th steal.
You always hope as a base stealer to pick a good pitch on which to run. Altuve does it. This is a great changeup, but it takes a little of the velocity off and puts it more on Flowers to have to make the perfect throw. The throw was right on the money, just not quick enough in that release.
And the pitch was low, and then Corcoran fell across the plate. And now he swings and misses. So Sale strikes out the side, and it's no runs a hit and a man left. No score after 1.
Tweet of the games from at Steve Sparks 37. Sparky up there in the radio booth tweeted Jordan Lyles last 6 games, 1.67 ERA. Is that bad? Good? Yeah, pretty good. Lyles was great. He threw 7 shutout innings, striking out a career high 10. Unfortunately, the Astros weren't able to put up runs until the 9th, so no win there. But he said after the game, him and Corp were on the same page all 7 innings. Corp called a great game, and his curveball really effective in that one, guys.
Oh, it really stood out, Julia, and especially the way he would throw that pitch in the dirt, Ash, and Corp would come up with it.
Yeah, it was really ideal. Corp was doing such a nice job blocking pitches that I think it provided all the confidence in the world for Jordan Lyles. Hard to believe Jordan Lyles is 22 as you watch him pitch now.
Yeah, he was pitching like a veteran who's been around a long time. Paul Konerko leads it off now. Taking strike 1 from Eric Bedard. Konerko at .231 with 6 homers, has 24 runs batted in, only 2 homers since May 1st, as Ash indicated. His back has not been 100% this year. One of the great White Sox players of all time in their history. The curveball missed coming in the back door, and it's 1-1. Paul, 37 years old now, and the Dodgers drafted him in the first round in '94 as a catcher. Traded him to Cincinnati in '98 for reliever Jeff Shaw. The White Sox got him in a trade after the '98 season for outfielder Mike Cameron. 428 home runs, ranking high among the active leaders. 1-2, and Paulie hit 26 last year, drove in 75 runs, but he has just had some monstrous years. He's a 6-time All-Star now. He's had some big-time seasons, including 41 homers in '04. In '05, the year the White Sox beat the Astros in the World Series, he hit 40 bombs, and he was the World Series MVP. Hit 1 World Series home run and drove in 4 in that 4-game series. But he also had 2 bombs in the division series and 2 more in the league championship series, for a total of 5 in the postseason that year.
He's gotten off to some great starts in terms of batting average. In fact, overall in recent seasons, first half 329 last year. So you wonder at some point, is it that age factor that's creeping in?
He's 8 for 24 with 3 doubles and 2 bombs against Eric Bedard. Breaking pitch is fouled to keep the count at 2 balls, 2 strikes. Bedard has thrown a good deal of fastballs this year, but he has a better success rate with his off-speed stuff. Curveball has limited the hitters to a .206 batting average against him this season. That's been a good pitch for Eric.
Been throwing that changeup a lot more and seemingly having very nice success with it.
Still 2-2 to Paul Konerko. It's a whole different feel for these Astros fans as they come out on a Friday night and see the Chicago White Sox making their first trip to Minute Maid Park as the Astros American League opponent. Just a situation of the fans getting a chance to learn a little bit more about these American League clubs now. They're in for a 4-game series which goes through Monday night. And the oddity of this one is that the White Sox will start a left-handed pitcher in all 4 games, barring something unforeseen. That is really rare in today's game.
I can't think of the last time I recall ever seeing 3 straight left-handers, let alone 4 in a row.
Exactly. Well, he works the leadoff walk. Paul Konerko takes a 3-2 pitch, and Bedard has a base runner with Adam Dunn coming up. Well, the Elias Sports Bureau has done some research. We'll get to that in a moment. First of all, a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to look forward to Miller Time later in tonight's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. The last time the Astros faced a left-handed starting pitcher in each of 4 straight games was in September of 2002. But 2 of those were at LA and the other 2 against Colorado, so those were not in the same series. Last time it happened in one series, Philadelphia Phillies, July of '89. Adam Dunn from Houston takes ball 1. Adam at 182 has 17 homers, 38 runs batted in, 8 for his last 15 though, with 4 homers in the last 4 games. So the Astros are catching him on a definite uptick for Adam. He moved to the Woodlands a couple of years ago. 1 ball, 1 strike. Adam is hitting only 100 against left-handed pitching. And he made it back in, of course, for the off day yesterday, coming back home. And he's hit 12 homers here at Minute Maid Park, driving in 38. He looks at that one from Bedard, and it's a 2 ball, 1 strike count. Listen to these pitchers from '89 at Philadelphia when the Astros faced a lefty starter in all 4 games. Bruce Ruffin, Dennis Cook, Terry Mulholland, and Larry McWilliams. That's back in the Alan Ashby era.
Ooh, I think those guys are going to be very upset at hearing that comment, Brian. We are not that old.
2 balls and 2 strikes. The oddity is that, of course, in the last series, the White Sox had a rainout, but the series before that was a 4-game series against Oakland, and the White Sox started 4 lefties against Oakland in that series. Dunn takes a look at it. Now another 3-2 count for Eric Bedard. Well, here in Konerko and Dunn back-to-back, White Sox offer 2 hitters who have more than 400 home runs in a career.
They also have a scenario where they're not likely to have Paul Konerko on the move here. Of a double combination of ugly.
Well, yeah, there's a walk, so it's not material in this case, but with the lack of Konerko's speed and also with Dunn being a high strikeout guy.
Yep, that's exactly where I was going. That probably leaves a manager thinking, I'm not even going to put a sign out here that can be misinterpreted.
Doug Brocail hoping Bedard can turn things around here after the back-to-back walks. It'll be Diane Viciedo next. Like Alexi Ramirez, another Cuban-born player, and one who has 4 homers, 15 runs batted in with a .232 average. One of the struggling players on the White Sox, just 6 for his last 50 for Viciedo. And this is after hitting 25 homers last year and driving in 78 runs.
It's amazing how clubs feel like they find somebody. We've got somebody that's going to be our so-and-so position player for the next 10 years, and then the next thing you know, the guy is in a slump coming into the start of a season where you just can't figure out how to get it going.
Yeah, those decade-long promises are bound to disappoint often. That's strike 1 for Bedard.
Well, we all want to think it's happening for our club, and sometimes it does, but I think that's more the rarity than the guy that winds up not being as good as you think initially.
Exactly. Jose Altuve comes in after Carlos Corporan went out, so they're double teaming Bedard here from both sides of the diamond. Dunn and Konerko were teammates who hit their 400th homers in the same season. That's another rarity. And it's 0-1 to Viciedo. It's 1-1. At Minute Maid Park, it's been good to Eric Bedard. His ERA here is 3.05 in 5 games, 3 as a starter.
Are you confused watching those signs yet?
Oh, for sure. Fly ball out to left field. Trevor Crowe over with the catch. That's a big one for Bedard. The runners don't move, and now it's Jeff Keppinger. Although Keppinger has been advancing lately. He's on an 8-game hitting streak. Very difficult usually to strike out. He doesn't walk much either, but he would be a double play threat. However, he's going to make contact normally despite that .229 batting average. That's not the normal range for Jeff Keppinger.
There are times when he can swing the bat, just looks like a guy that should be playing every day and being an all-star.
That's true. He can be a line drive machine. And Keppinger, the former Astro, was drafted by Pittsburgh, traded to the Mets, then he moved along to Kansas City, Cincinnati. The Astros got him in a trade in 2009. And last year he hit .325 for Tampa Bay. White Sox signed him as a free agent. And there's strike 1 to Jeff, who's played a lot of second base in his career, but Gordon Beckham has returned from his injury, so Keppinger slides over to third. Keppinger did not walk until his 141st plate appearance this year.
probably doesn't bode well for the on-base percentage, huh?
He hits one down the left field line toward the corner. Crow coming over into foul territory, and that's a foul ball. Banging around there for strike 2.
Yeah, you want to run into an intriguing set of numbers. The batting average right now for Keppinger coming into the game, 229. The on-base percentage, because of what you were talking about, total of 2 walks this year. The on-base percentage, 5 points higher at 234.
During his 8-game hitting streak, he's been a 325 hitter. 11 hits and 34 at bats. He really opens up to start with that stance. In the dirt on a breaking pitch for ball 1. Keppinger signed a 3-year deal with the White Sox in December for $12 million. Well, this is a big weekend with the normal big and bright Friday night. Fireworks to come after the game. Bobble bellies tomorrow. Picnic in the park on Sunday. A lot of things happening for Astros fans here. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And we will not be televising tomorrow night's game, by the way. We'll be back on Sunday and be here for the rest of the games on the homestand after tomorrow. That game is a network telecast. Darren Sutton is in town to handle the play-by-play chores.
You and I going to get together and practice the gig?
We should do that.
Yeah.
Line shot caught by Dominguez. The runners retreat to their bases. Well, Keppinger hit his line drive, but it was caught for out number 2.
Boy, that was an intriguing setup with the possibility of maybe making a throw, seeing if you can get the double play at second. But you've got a runner at second base so much bigger than Altuve. I imagine that for Dominguez, you couldn't even see Jose coming to the bag.
Yeah. So Keppinger lined into out number 2, and now he turns it over to Casper Wells. Wells, the center fielder, was with Detroit when he started his career, then Seattle. He's moved along to Oakland this year. 129 with 1 run batted in his 5th start now with the White Sox. He was with Toronto as well. Been a man on the move. Casper's from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Went to Towson State University. That name Casper's an unusual one. There's strike 1. Did you grow up watching the cartoon Casper the Friendly Ghost?
Yeah, I have to admit I did. I really didn't want to admit that, but got this lie detection device on me tonight.
Well, Casper Wells is the 5th generation Casper in his family. So that's a name that will just not die.
Very nice, Bronny.
Tap to third base, and Dominguez will not make a play. He had no play, and the bases are loaded on the little infield chop by Wells. Hit number 1 for the White Sox.
So that's the way they set this game up, where you can hit a line drive for an out and then hit that thing for a base hit, huh?
That's the way the game's set up.
It's not about how hard, it's about location. And that location works out pretty well. Dominguez wisely looking back to see if Cedeno was at the bag at third, to see if they might catch a runner coming around the bag.
That's right. He might have been able to pull a Manny Machado play. Tyler Flowers comes up with the bases loaded now, the number 9 hitter at 222. Flowers with 6 homers has driven in 16. Last year he started 41 times when AJ Pierzynski was there. Flowers was drafted by Atlanta. The White Sox got him in a trade after the 08 season. Hector Jimenez, a former Astro farmhand, is his backup. There's ball 1. So with this White Sox club, 15th in the American League in runs scored and 15th in on base average, there are those pointing to the loss of AJ Pierzynski this year. That's Konerko, and Dunn and Wells are behind him.
I'll say this for A.J. Pierzynski. Swings a good bat, and he's out there day after day.
Pop up. Back into the crowd. Carter over for a look. It's 1-1. Yeah, A.J. plays a lot.
Not the guy that generally, up until last year, hit a lot of home runs, though. Last year he broke out the power bat. But he'd stroke it around the field. But when you looked at the White Sox lineup on any given night, Pierzynski was behind the dish.
A real gamer. Flowers has picked it up, though. He's gone 8 for 20 with 2 doubles, 2 homers, and 3 runs batted in his last 7 games. Swing and a miss. Makes it 1-2 for Eric Bedard, who walked the first 2 in this inning.
Dead straight heater. 4-seamer blown right over the bat.
Bedard, part of an Astros starting staff with a 3.11 ERA in its last 27 starts. And a swing and a miss gets it done for Eric Bedard. Stepping on the plate, Corbin takes care of out number 3. It's no runs, a hit. 3 men left as Bedard gets out of bases loaded. Trouble to keep the game scoreless.
And tomorrow, the Astros take on the White Sox again at 6:15. Be sure to get to Minute Maid Park early as 10,000 fans will receive an Orbit Bobble Belly, courtesy of Coca-Cola. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS to get your tickets now. Actually, have a sneak peek at this Mr. Orbit Bobble Belly. I'm hoping to show you guys here in a second. It's pretty cool stuff, though.
Are you the first to get one?
Do you see it?
Yes.
This is good stuff. Gotta have it.
Have you seen his commercial? Strike one to Chris Carter. Yeah, that's a commercial out on the Astros website.
Yes, the video is great. You have to check out the video on the Astros website of Orbit.
Yeah, he'll move around a little bit. Put a hula hoop on him and you've got some real entertainment there. No
it was good to see him too, Brownie, after the last homestand. He almost injured himself, remember?
Oh, I forgot about that. Chris Carter chases one, and he strikes out on 3 pitches. That's 4 punch-outs already for Chris Sale. Hey, Julia, you were good at catching that fish in Seattle. That was a good entertainment.
Thank you very much, Brownie. That was my first trip to that fish market. It was very entertaining. The guys were fun. You know, they use that as a motivational for, motivational speech, I guess, for companies and stuff. And I'd never seen it, so for me to go out there and let me catch the fish was too much fun. I caught it on the first try.
It looked, yeah, you did. It looked kind of chilly out there. You were all bundled up, but now you're back home.
Oh, it's nice to be back.
I couldn't believe you didn't have a raincoat on catching a fish.
No apron, nothing.
Ronnie Cedeno fouls it back. There's strike one. Ronnie's one of the Astros' good hitters against left-handed pitching. 253 overall, 1 homer, 9 runs batted in, 421 against the Southpaws. Third baseman backs up as he shoots one on a line and is caught by Gordon Beckham at second. 2 outs. Keppinger was backpedaling. Cedeno swung the bat.
Again, here's what you get when you hit line drives. And that's what it feels like when you're going badly. It just feels like, come on, is there any justice in this game?
Yeah. Sale gets out number 2 and now moves along to Jimmy Paredes. Jimmy at 198 has 1 homer, 7 runs batted in. Switch hitter takes ball 1. Now Jimmy, as a right-handed batter, is hitting .095. He's 2 for 21. One hopper goes to Keppinger. Chris Sale is indeed sailing along through 2. It's 0-0. Will take us back to June 14th, 1966, when 19-year-old Larry Dierker outpitched Sandy Koufax in a 3-0 Astros shutout of the Dodgers. Happy Flag Day, everybody, June 14th, and happy birthday to Marius Payton. The Comcast Sportsnet staff, fine anchor. Gordon Beckham takes a look at ball 1. He leads it off in the 3rd inning. Gordon hit a fly ball to center as he led off the game. White Sox are 12-21 on the road. That's their worst 33-game road start in 10 years. It's 2-0, and this is game 1 of a 10-game road trip for them. So they're hoping for an immediate turnaround in that road record. They go to Minnesota and Kansas City after this series. So they re-enter their own division after this. It's 2 balls and a strike. Eric Bedard just made his 200th career start last time out at Kansas City. That made him the 6th Canadian-born pitcher to reach 200. Fergie Jenkins, the all-time leader. Ryan Dempster, Kirk McCaskill, Jeff Francis, Reggie Cleveland, the others who started 200. Foul back, and it's a 2-ball, 2-strike count for Gordon Beckham. Larry Dierker finished 3rd on the all-time Astros win list behind Joe Niekro and Roy Oswalt. Hey, is Roy about to join the Colorado Rockies, Ash?
Well, I know he was in the minor leagues with Colorado, and I know they're trying to get him up. I don't know how imminent that might be.
Well, they've got some worries with Troy Tulowitzki being out with that broken rib.
4 to 6 weeks now, and he's been off to a terrific start. That's got to just crush that club.
Oh, that's a killer.
You know, that Larry Dierker date, I was a big Dodger fan back in 1966, and I remember that well, and I thought, how could anybody beat my hero, Sandy Koufax? And the whole Larry Dierker era worked out pretty well.
Oh, yeah. Those were some terrific games. Koufax, Drysdale, Dierker, and some of the others on the Astros staff back in those days. And of course, the Astros were Colt 45s at the time, a young club, and became the Astros in '65. So those were big wins for them when they could beat an established club like the Dodgers with a Koufax or a Drysdale on the mound.
Eighth wonder of the world going on.
Yeah. Struck him out on a curve, and Bedard gets number 3.
Eric Bedard just keeps changing speeds. One thing he does very well, whether it be with the curveball here or most often with the fastball, works in on hitters. And he commands the outside corner a little better because he does that so well.
We got a stat on him today that his fastball has lost velocity over the last 30 days. Alexei Ramirez, the batter. That's line foul. That might not be that significant. I would imagine over the course of a 6-month season, most pitchers are going to lose miles per hour over a 30-day period compared to the previous 30-day period. What do you think, Ash?
Yeah, I think you'll have your ups and downs, no question. And when you talk to pitchers about a given season, they'll say, yeah, he had a dead arm period. And what you always hope is that's all it is, that there is a rebound coming along. But I'll say again of Eric Bedard, he's not a young pup at the time that we're talking about right now. And he works the inside corner. I'm not sure that he needs every mile per hour that he has. There's that curveball that he's been working so well. But if you watch him throughout the course of the game, you'll see Carlos Corporon or if it's Jason Castro, the number of times they will set up in on right-hand and left-hand hitters. And to me, that's been one of the big things that's helped Eric really get things going again now.
And Dallas Keuchel has worked the inner part of the plate very well against right-handed hitters as well.
Has he ever?
That looked pretty good, but shaking his head no. Paul Nauert only ball 2.
Of course, Jordan Lyles right now is a guy you just can't help but notice. He's been so good. See how they try to work it in, and when Bedard misses, he misses off the plate most of the time.
And that's the place you want to miss, not over the middle of the plate.
Exactly. You don't want to miss, but if you're going to miss off the plate, unless, of course, it's one of those 3-ball scenarios. Eric's been very willing to come in there.
Another bouncer foul. You know, when we think back to pitchers who did such a great job of hitting the target just time after time after time, Greg Maddux comes to mind on that. He hardly ever walked anybody, but walks per se can be deceiving. You know, how much was he missing over the middle of the plate? No, he didn't do that very often at all.
Well, I guess when you start talking like that, Tom Glavine comes to mind as well, because Tom Glavine was willing to walk people.
Yeah.
A 300-game winner. Didn't strike out a ton, didn't have that great strikeout to walk ratio that a lot of people look for, and yet he found ways to win because he worked in. He would throw that sinker, the changeup, change velocities continually and work to edges and never seemed to give in. And therefore, he was that guy willing to walk people, but he never gave in on any given count.
Little roller goes out to Altuve. And he handles it for out number 2. You know, that brings us to an interesting question. And some people might wonder, what do you mean, like, he never gave in? Would you define never?
Well, for a lot of pitchers, I would say the vast majority of pitchers, you get to a 2-0, 3-1 count, 3-2 even, and they're going to try to throw over the wide of the plate. That says, look, I don't want to walk this guy. I want him to put the ball in play. But what I remember with Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine in particular was that they just didn't cave in. Now, Maddux could hit that corner time after time after time, and he'd get the calls. Tom Glavine, not as much. But when he walked a guy, he basically said, heck with it, I don't care. I didn't want you hit one out of the ballpark or hitting that double to the gap and move on to the next hitter, and I'll continue to pitch him the same way.
And I thought that Roger Clemens was that way when he was here, too. He didn't care if he walked a guy with the bases loaded, because that guy might be somebody who could have hurt him with a grand slam.
You don't want to give up the gapper or the home run. Right now, we can afford the walk. So, yeah, that's the way he pitched.
Fly ball to shallow left for Trevor Crowe. And Eric Bedard regroups from that bases loaded threat in the second to get a 1-2-3 third and keep this game scoreless.
Still scoreless here, and it's time for the Geico quote of the game. It's from Astros' second-round draft pick, Andrew Thurman, the righty. He says, "I'm just very excited. I feel honored and blessed to have this opportunity. It's been my dream since I was a kid to play pro baseball." Thurman, out of UC Irvine, has reached a contract agreement with the Astros. He hopes to sign the contract soon. He was ranked as the 11th best righty in the draft this year by some sites, guys.
Very excited to see him as he starts his pro career very soon, and he should probably be passing through Houston to sign that contract, we're guessing, on his way before going out to his minor league club.
Really nice when you can acquire Appel and Thurman again ranked 11th in terms of the pitching in that draft. So two great pitching picks there early in the draft, and obviously the Astros continuing to try to load up on as much pitching and best talent available.
Chris Sale delivers, and it's a little bit up to Matt Dominguez. That brings the count to 1-1. Matt at 227 has 9 homers. He's driven in 32. Mark Appel, the #1 overall pick in the draft, has not signed yet. The Astros taking 31 college players in the 40 players that they drafted, and they have been a very aggressive bunch in signing them. That's a liner over second baseman into right center field. Boy, if Matt Dominguez can do that, and he's been a pull hitter quite a bit this season, if he can take it over the head of the second baseman like he did over Beckham's head, that could really open up the field for Matt Dominguez.
I think when you look at the 227 batting average, it says that he hasn't done this a whole lot. But once he does start doing this, now he sets up the chance to have pitchers thinking, well, you know, he got me going the other way, pitch out over the plate. Now we'll try to come in, and Matt Dominguez has shown that he can turn and launch that home run to left field.
In #2 for the Astros, and it's Trevor Crowe coming up at 201 homer. He's driven in 4. Trevor's a switch hitter. 2 for 4 as a right-handed batter. And strike 1 to him. Astros were able to snap that 6-game losing streak with that tremendous 9th inning comeback to win it Wednesday night. It made the off day so much more enjoyable for Bo Porter. He said, well, he did get some rest. A lot of the players got home about 7:30 in the morning. You guys landed about what, 6, Ash?
Yeah, it's about 5:45 when we touched down. Of course, that means about 45 minutes later you pull into the ballpark, maybe another 20 minutes later, you're able to get your luggage and start heading home. So it's a long morning, and that chance to finally get some sleep was delayed a bit for a lot of us. That was for certain.
Dominguez just snapped an 0 for 15 with that hit. Pro fouls it, and it's no balls, 2 strikes.
So in the common sense of off day, where you kind of take advantage and catch a movie or whatever it is you like to do, it was probably not your classic off day yesterday.
Well, Julia said she got up before noon and went shopping.
Well, when you've got something you really want to do, anybody can get up at that point.
Yeah. Well, you know, at some point your passion takes over, right?
Shopping and errands, Browning.
But now tomorrow.
I didn't hear anything about food in there.
No, I had enough to eat in that last series.
Did you get some nice salmon in the Northwest?
Salmon? No, I just caught salmon.
You caught salmon, but you didn't eat any.
I didn't
salmon?
eat any.
You mean you held that scaly fish and you never actually got to enjoy the tender insides of a fish?
Well, now you're giving me something to look forward to when we go back.
Yeah. Always got to be that reward at the end of the rainbow, right?
We had a good time at that fish market, though.
But that's a long trip. You guys had to come back from Anaheim the previous trip, and that was about a 6 a.m. arrival.
Just about the same deal. A little longer flight this time.
Brandon Barnes, the batter. Strike 1 to Brandon, who struck out in the first inning. Brandon has hit lefties extremely well, 357. When will Justin Maxwell be back? The media keeps asking Bo Porter, and he said he's not sure as he responded to that question today. Justin had a 2-hit game yesterday for Oklahoma City. That was his first game at AAA after having a few games at AA Corpus Christi. And he had some problems. I think it was food poisoning type problems. So the Astros just want to make sure that he's feeling good and playing through, at least to get him his at-bats and make sure that everything physically is fine with him before promoting him again.
Yeah, Justin scuffled a bit at the double A level as part of the rehab, but now kind of cranking it up as he gets to Oak City.
So who knows? Could be any day, really, depending on the reports they're getting on him with the Red Hawks. There's a line shot, but it's foul. And a broken bat for Brandon Barnes. 0-2 for Brandon.
Yeah, this is the guy that's the real kind of big part of that equation as to where Justin actually winds up playing when he does get back. The Astros continue their series against the White Sox through Monday. Then the Milwaukee Brewers come to town for a 3-game series Tuesday through Thursday. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit Astros.com to get your tickets right now.
Tomorrow it's a 6:15 start. And that game is on Fox TV. It's Lucas Harrell and John Danks. Then we're back on the air Sunday with a 1:10 start for Dallas Keuchel and Hector Santiago. Pregame show. Astros pregame live at 12:30. At strike 3, and Sale now has 6 punch outs.
Yeah, Brandon Barnes apparently thought this ball was up. They wanted to come up, but that pitch right around the waistband, and that clearly is in the strike zone. In fact, I would say, watching from the side, easily under the waistband.
Now Sale works to Jose Altuve, who lined a 2-0 pitch for a single to left field. He has 1 ground out, 1 in the air, 6 punch outs. The Monday night finale will be at 7:10. We'll be on the air at 6:30 with Astros pregame live, leading up to Bud Norris and Jose Quintana.
Well, we get a glimpse of Sale here this evening. Pretty easy to see why he has been such a splash coming onto the big league scene.
Well, the White Sox were worried about his arm last year as he made the conversion from reliever to starter. But he worked 192 innings. It's 1-1, and he begged, according to stories, to start. But in 2011, he was in 58 games. He had 16 holds and 8 saves. Struck out 79 in 71 innings, so he was doing quite well in relief. And it was just his passion to re-enter the rotation. Well, that worked out extremely well. last year, but they had to really keep an eye on the pitch count for him. 1-2 to Jose Altuve. Now we mentioned, take a look at this first.
He changes speed so well, and when you start from about 95 miles an hour, that makes it awfully tough. Hitters have to be awfully quick in their minds with that fastball, and sometimes you're just too quick.
Grounded, and Alexi Ramirez to his left makes the toss to Gordon Beckham for the forced play on Dominguez. It's no runs, a hit, and a man left, no score.
Still no score, and it's time for our Progressive Fan of the Game. Got the goodie bag, and my guy over here is Zach with a CH. Zach, he's 10 years old. Here you go, here's your bag. And do you play baseball yourself?
Yes.
Where do you play?
Shortstop and pitcher.
For who?
Kingwood Forest Cove.
Nice, and who's your favorite Astro?
Jose Altuve.
Good answer. Congratulations, Zach, guys.
Thanks, Julia. Paul Konerko leads it off in a scoreless game. Eric Bedard throws, and there's ball one to Konerko, who walked in the second inning.
Make sure Zach knows we need that all-star vote for Jose Altuve.
Oh, yeah. Ground ball, fair over third. It goes into foul territory, then kicks out, and the fan reaches over but does not interfere. And that'll be a double for Paul Konerko. His 8th of the year.
Good call as the ball goes what I thought was right over the bag. We'll take a peek here. Yeah, right over that base and down the line. And fans, keep your hands off that baseball when it's a fair ball.
Well, fortunately, he whiffed on it, and it remained in play.
You can generally count on the whiff.
Adam Dunn is the batter. Dunn drew a walk on a 3-2 count, as did Konerko in the second inning. Strike one to Adam.
Yeah, that fastball there, Brownie, down to 87 miles an hour. But when spotted well, still plays very nicely.
Dunn's hit 23 career bombs against the Astros. Bedard disrupts his timing a little bit with that curveball, and it's 0-2. Eric's been throwing fewer curves this year than he did a year ago.
A bit of a hanger, but lefty on lefty, able to sweep it away.
Last year, 29% of his pitches were curveballs. This year, it's been 13%. But it's been an effective pitch for him. 1-2. Last year, Adam Dunn hit .204. There's a breakdown on him. 0.98 against lefties. Altuve's on the grass in shallow right field, as you can tell. Dunn last year led the American League in walks with 105 and in strikeouts with 222.
No stranger to being the leader in strikeouts.
That one pops out of the mid of Corcoran, and that allows for the advance of Konerko to third base.
Yeah, that is a pass ball, plain and simple. Sometimes you get that sailing fastball from the left-hand pitcher that runs away. On the glove side was always the most difficult side for me, and I think every catcher I've ever talked to felt the same way. On the backhand side, much easier.
Pass ball, and that allows the runner to move to third with nobody out. And the infielders will creep in a little bit. They're playing about halfway at short and second, as you can see. Dunn fouls it away. Dunn with a .282 on base average, elevated by the 29 walks he's received, is looking to get this first run of the game home from third by making some sort of contact. Last year he had 41 homers, drove in 96 runs. He drives this one toward the right field corner, coming over Jimmy Paredes with the catch. Here's the tag and the easy score by Konerko for a 1-0 lead. And Dunn, with 2 strikes in the count, did make contact for the sac fly to give him his 39th run batted in.
Despite all the strikeouts for Adam Dunn throughout his career, he's been a run producer. That home run is a great way to produce runs, but at bats like this can be so key for a team.
Yeah, you're right, especially with 2 strikes in the count. And he got it deep enough to score Konerko easily. Viciedo next. He fouls it for strike 1. Now, home runs are always impressive, but it's that kind of a run that gets the attention of the guys in uniform. 2 strikes in the count, runner on third, nobody out.
I think because of the strikeouts, though, a lot of people, even managers, are concerned about that guy in terms of picking up RBIs on sac flies or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, Paredes in for out number 2.
The more you strike out, the less opportunity you give yourself to drive in kind of the cheap runs, maybe a ground out with the infield playing back or the sac fly.
Well, that brings up the point of when the strikeouts occur. Jeff Keppinger lined to third his first time up.
Yeah, now if you can buckle down and stay away from the strikeout in those RBI producing situations, I'm not sure guys have that ability, guys that do strike out a lot.
Yeah, that 2-strike approach. Strike to Keppinger.
Those guys tend to be the home run hitter. They tend to stay at the end of the bat. They tend to have that same long ball swing all the time, and it leads to a lot of those strikeouts in key RBI scenarios.
Barnes is waiting in center field for this Keppinger fly ball. And it's 1 run, it's unearned on 1 hit and a 1-0 lead for the White Sox.
1-0. Join us Friday, June 28th for our next Big and Bright Friday night. The Astros take on the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim at 7:10. Stay after the game for a spectacular fireworks show featuring music hits from my favorite, Michael Jackson, presented by Marathon Oil. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com to get your tickets now, guys.
And it has not escaped our attention that the Astros are 7-3 against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. So maybe it'll be a really great night for you when you come out and watch the ball game and watch some fireworks. Fireworks coming after this Big and Bright Friday night. Now it's 1-0 White Sox. J.D. Martinez steps up in the home fourth inning. He struck out looking in the first against lefty Chris Sale. Sale misses there, and it's ball one for Chris. Since the White Sox swept the Astros in the 05 World Series, the only playoff appearance for either of the two came for the 08 White Sox. They won the American League Central but lost to the Rays in the Division Series 3-1. The Astros, with the 7-year playoff drought, is their longest since they went from 86 to 97 between playoff appearances. And the White Sox have their longest drought since a 5-year absence back in the 90s. 2 balls, 1 strike to J.D. with Corcoran and Carter to follow. After that 05 World Series, fans of both teams certainly were hoping they'd see many more playoff appearances the next few years. 2 balls, 2 strikes. White Sox have been really marked by outstanding pitching in their playoff years, and they certainly were in that 05 season. They were dominant in the postseason. Chris Sale was their opening day starter this year. Then Jake Peavy, the number 2 man, he's out right now with a rib injury. Robin Ventura went with Gavin Floyd as his number 3 starter, then Quintana and Axelrod. And they've had injuries on that staff. Don Cooper is the constant as the pitching coach in his 11th year. 3 balls, 2 strikes. He has seen some outstanding arms come through Chicago. This fly ball heads for center field. Casper Wells moving in. 1 out. And our compatriot Jeff Blum was a big factor in that 05 World Series with that 14th inning game-winning homer in Game 3 here.
They say left-hand hitters like the ball down and in. In this case, Jeff Blum proved that axiom was true for the moment. Blondie, yeah, that was very popular with the Astros. Jeff Blum had a huge swing in that series.
And there was a swing the other direction from Phil Garner. Can't blame him for that one. And there's Paul Konerko congratulating Jeff Blum. So Konerko, the only remaining player on either of these teams, still on one of these teams since 05. That World Series. There is strike 1 to Carlos Corcoran.
It's amazing how timing would have that chair go bad on Phil Garner right when that home run was hit.
That's an emotional time, isn't it? You work all season, and for many players, you work your whole life to get to a World Series.
I'd love to know the specifics on that. Was there something said about how to pitch Jeff Blum that wound up getting crossed up? Was there an edict to not throw him a strike in that scenario? Because Phil Garner did not look like a manager who was just a little displeased.
No. 2-1 for Chris Sale. He's needed only 45 pitches to get through 3 1/3. It's a 2-ball, 2-strike count.
Log on to csnhouston.com and click on In-Game Live to enhance your Astros experience via computer, smartphone, or tablet. Get in-depth stats and join the social buzz. In-Game Live only on csnhouston.com.
That's strike 3 on the heater. That's number 7. 95 miles per hour.
Yeah, Chris Sale may not be a big guy in terms of body weight, but that arm, he will buggy whip it at 95 steadily, and he has spotted it well here this evening.
Well, that's a real issue for a hitter, isn't it? That arm angle of Chris Sale.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a completely different look than you see against the vast majority of pitchers. And again, add on top of it that he has not only the great command, but that velocity is exceptional.
Strike one to Chris Carter, who struck out in the second inning.
You see it with guys coming in out of the bullpen for an inning.
Alexi Ramirez went up to snag that liner off the bat of Chris Carter for out number 3, and through 4, it's 1-0 White Sox.
As we move on, create memories, save money, and have fun with Astros baseball. Whether you're treating your employees, hosting clients, or bringing out your church or youth sports team, we'll create an experience your group is sure to remember. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com to enjoy special pricing right now and great benefits by reserving your group or suite today.
Casper Wells leads it off. It's 1-0 White Sox. And there's ball one. The run in the 4th inning was ruled an unearned run by the official score. Wells reached on an infield hit in the 2nd inning. A little topped ball toward Matt Dominguez at 3rd. And that's the judgment of the official score, 1-1. Konerko had led off with a double, and then he took 3rd on a pass ball. Well, when the official score reconstructs the inning, he takes away the pass ball. So he's at 2nd with nobody out. Adam Dunn hits a fly ball deep in the right field corner. So in the official score's judgment, Konerko takes 3rd on the ball hit by Dunn. And then Biciedo hit a fly ball to medium depth right field. Now, does Konerko score on that or does he not? There's no way you'll ever know because there wasn't a play on him. So the official scorer just has to use his best information. And in his best information, he would not have scored. So the run's unearned.
Well, there was another question mark, I thought, on the recent road trip, I believe in Seattle. Bud Norris had an earned run charged against him. Very similar type of circumstance. And the scorer made the assumption that a base runner from 2nd would have tagged up, and it wound up being an earned run. I probably took exception with that ruling.
Okay.
But I don't think the scorer was listening to me.
Now, would you ever like to be in that seat?
No. No, I think there are a lot of plays that come up during the course of ball games that you just can't win on. They're coin flips,
That's right.
and you're going to upset some people.
Difficult job. Very difficult job. That's ball 4 to Casper Wells. And a leadoff walk. That's number 3 of the night.
Chris Carter lined out in the previous half inning, and Alexi Ramirez showed that he is a potential rebounder should any NBA team be looking for some help late in the season, maybe postseason like this.
Well, the Heat didn't need him last night. The Spurs could have used him.
Thing is, you've got to come down with that rebound and land on your feet and make something happen.
He made something happen. He put a smile on Chris Sale's face.
And he did.
Tyler Flowers looking at ball one. Well, the Heat got everything together last night.
It's been a back and forth series.
It has been.
You feel like after one game that, well, you know the way this series is going to go, and then it just turns 180 on you.
Sure does. It's the beauty of postseason. Best of 7 series. The drama builds throughout. Now it's a best of 3 series. Go to first in the dirt. Wells diving back, and it's a 1-ball, 1-strike count.
Or is it potentially a best of 1 series?
Yeah.
As you wind up with the next couple of ball games going back to Miami. I think for San Antonio, it's a must win.
I have to agree with you. Now 1-1 count on Flowers. And it's 2 balls and a strike. Eric Bedard.
Yeah, this inside corner has been nearly impossible to come up with a call for Eric Bedard and company this evening. He continues to work at it, painting away. That paintbrush apparently just not finding the wall that's needed.
Exactly, and that can be more frustrating, as you well know, for a left-handed pitcher trying to come inside on a right-handed batter. It's moving right into the umpire's vision. And if he's not going to get a call on it, and you know, people tell the umpire, well, you're looking at it, it had to cross the plate to get to this point where he catches it, right?
Well, I had umpires tell me, no, I've got my nose right on the inside corner. And my comment back would be, well, you're not aware of where your nose is, because as a catcher, you didn't know that balls were catching the wide of the plate numerous times. But I tell you what else I would feel is that pitch right on the umpire's nose would make them flinch. It's just it's a tougher corner to get the called strike on.
And a curveball works for a strikeout on Flowers. That's number 4 for Bedard.
Eric Bedard continues to do a nice job. That breaking ball that was off the corner here induces the swing.
Ash, this is one of the fascinating things, though, about watching Major League pitchers. You know, if you can't get a call on a certain pitch, sometimes doesn't the pitcher and the catcher involved tell themselves, okay, we've got to make this guy swing the bat then. We've got to try something a little bit different to get a strike.
No doubt about it. I think that's exactly true. There they get the inside corner for a called strike. I'll say the years, you mentioned Roger Clemens tonight, and I thought he had some of the most spectacular stretches and lengthy stretches while he pitched with the Astros. I was astounded at what he could do, but though he came with a legend of pitching in a lot and just being that guy that would knock guys down, I found, at least in my estimation, what my eyes saw, that Roger worked the outside corner almost as much as Nolan Ryan did, who had that same reputation. Nasty and filthy and working in. Nolan worked the outside corner and almost exclusively at times, but they were so good in finding that outside corner that they almost, it appeared anyway, they had no need to come in. But when one would get away from either one of those guys, they were known as headhunters and filthy and nasty and ugly personalities on the hill. And in my assessment, they were pitches that just simply got away.
Okay. Ian Kennedy, of course, had some pitches that may have gotten away, may not have.
Boy, did he ever. I would say I'm not buying into that theory.
Well, he's got 10 days to serve his suspension now. Think about it.
Well, he can hone his control on the inside edge in that time.
Strikeout. Number 5, we go to Julia Morales.
Just wanted to remind everybody to tune in to Chevy Hometown Kids every Saturday morning at 9:30 on CSN. Chevy Hometown Kids, where it's not about the score, but the experience, Brownie.
Julia, you may not be up by 9:30 tomorrow to watch that show.
There's not a chance on earth.
How did you know?
But
you were talking about me waking up at 12. Well, I went right back to bed after I got done shopping.
Well, your body clock just gets out of whack after a trip like that,
exactly.
as you well know.
Yep.
Guys were talking about it today. Alexi Ramirez. There's a strike to Alexi. Chris Carter said, well, he slept for 4 or 5 hours, then he got up, and he was up for a few hours, then he slept for a few more, got up for a few, and so it's hard to get that than 8 solid hours after a trip like that.
Difficult for the guys with little ones at home as well. Brandon Barnes said his little girl would have been waiting for him when he got home. So
yeah,
bring on the coffee.
That's the other factor. You're right. That's a liner into right by Ramirez. Paredes backhands it, fires in towards second as the runner from first takes third. Casper Wells on the single by Ramirez makes it first and third, and Rios is coming up.
Not a bad pitch at all from Eric Bedard. Down and away, and all that happens there is Alexi Ramirez does exactly what a hitting coach wants to see you do. Take that pitch the other way, and he does it right on the barrel of the bat.
That's good hitting by Ramirez. Now that sets it up for Rios to bat with first and third and 2 outs for Robin Ventura's White Sox. Rios is 0 for 2.
Sometimes pitchers win, sometimes hitters win. When you're in hot streaks, you'll get about 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in your lineup swinging it with a hot bat, and it'll really help carry you. You also need the pitching side to work out for you, but these two ball clubs have just not had that work out on the course of the season where the offense can really dominate for a period of time.
Pitch count at 87 for Bo Porter's left-hander Bedard. There is some stirring in the bullpen right now. Nobody really throwing at the moment. They're just moving around out there. In this 1-0 game. Bedard really up against it the way Sale is throwing tonight. There's ball 1 to Rios. How tough is it to be coming back from an overnight trip, getting home bone tired, and you've got a little kid who wants to play? You just can't turn away from that, right?
Yeah, that's a kind of a split decision for me, because nothing can perk you up more than that scenario that you talk about. Whereas there comes a point at which you've got to be able to get your sleep.
That's the end of a long stretch of 20 straight.
Of course, it's mom thinking it's my time to get some sleep now.
Right. 2-0. Well, the final game of this homestand will be a day game, and then on to Chicago's Wrigley Field for a 3-day game. So that's an entirely different element coming for this time next week.
You're going to make those trips. In fact, 2 trips to Chicago.
It's going to be fun. Fouled away. You saw Ramirez there at first. He's been a base stealer. He's 13 of 15. But they're just letting Rios swing the bat here with a 2-1 count.
Eric Bedard also with a very nice slide step, and he's employed that well this year. Doing a great job shutting down running games. When you do what Eric did on that previous pitch, no need for a pickoff throw, no need to have infielders moving. You're just going to shut the running game down.
That's a strike call, and it's 2-2 on Rios.
And again, you could see the slide step. If you want to run with that type of delivery from Eric Bedard, now we catch it a little bit late right there, but if you want to run, you're trusting the hitter to make contact.
Big pitch coming here for Bedard. And he gets a foul ball on it.
Eric appears to be very comfortable with this slide step. And this is the way you shut down a running game. You want to go right there, you're hanging yourself out.
Strike 3 on Rios. A big pitch for Bedard. No runs, a hit, 2 men left. That's 6 strikeouts for Eric Bedard. He keeps the score 1-0 White Sox in the 5th.
combine business and baseball or a unique space to hold your next event with state-of-the-art meeting spaces, Minute Maid Park can service all your needs. Call 713-259-8800 for more info. Don't forget to ask about softball games and batting practice, guys.
Well, this field will be very busy after the game on Sunday for that picnic in the park. Sold out occasion. Fans will be down in the field spreading out their blankets. The entire Astros team will be there. Ronnie Cedeno, bottom of the 5th inning, 1-0 White Sox, shows bunt, jumps back. There's strike one to Ronnie. He lined out to second in the 2nd inning. Well, the Astros would love to get him aboard here. They've been held to 2 singles through the first 4 by Chris Sale, and he's needed 50 pitches. It's a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Not only was Sale highly regarded by the White Sox when they drafted him in the first round in 2010 with the 13th overall pick, but then they signed him to a 5-year deal for $32.5 million. Tap to the left side. Alexi Ramirez bobbles it. And safe at first, Ronnie Cedeno, who went in head first, but there was not a play on him as he leads off the 5th inning with that infield hit.
Alexi Ramirez, viewed as, when he first came up, maybe one of the most talented shortstops in the game. But even the talented guys will have one eat him up a little bit. Got the glove down there, but a little too much.
Right. Came up on the heel of his glove. It's ruled an error. Okay.
I think Robin Ventura feels that his shortstop should make that play, but that's a toughie.
The 9th for Ramirez this year. Now Carlos Corcoran. And Jimmy Paredes fouls it for strike one as Paredes bats for the 2nd time. He grounded out to 3rd in the 2nd inning, trying to push that bunt with a left-handed pitcher on the mound. And if he could push it by Chris Sale, he could get an infield hit in addition to advancing Cedeno.
I think this is one of the biggest ways to grow up as a team offensively, especially when you get the leadoff doubles. And we've seen it happen a lot of times where the Astros, and other clubs for that matter, fail to score after a leadoff double. But you've got to find ways to be productive. With that leadoff single, it requires, in most cases, more than just that bunt towards second. You want to have a bigger inning if possible.
Dave Tremblay with signs. Matt Dominguez on deck. The Astros, during their 6-game losing streak, which they snapped Wednesday night, scored 8 runs. And they got 6 in the 9th inning Wednesday. Throw goes over to first, so they're hoping that will lead them to better offensive fortunes now. Now that they're back home where they're 10-23 for the season, they would love to see that home record improve quite a bit on this stand. With a couple of clubs who have been struggling, the White Sox and Milwaukee coming in.
You know what I think one of the toughest jobs in this game is trying to analyze baseball. And you mentioned it, 6-game losing streak. You score 7 runs in that span. You're just about to lose a 7th straight shutout for 8 innings. And all of a sudden you put 6 runs on the board.
Crazy.
And I don't think anybody can honestly answer why that took place. Now you can get theories and this pontification going on here and over there as well. But in most cases, I think it's generally off the mark. It's just a crazy game.
It is. As we saw with the explosion against the Seattle closer, Tom Wilhelmsen. Paredes beats one into the ground. This is a big at bat for Jimmy, not to put all that pressure on his shoulders here, but he has really been struggling. By the way, Wilhelmsen is not going to be used as the closer for at least the next 2 or 3 days. Mariners want to see him work on improving his command and location in some non-safe situations.
But I think that recent 6-game losing streak can tell you a lot about this game and some of the isms that go around. You win with great starting pitching. Well, the Astros had great starting pitching in that span. But you've got to get offense as well, and you need to play defense, and they didn't play very good defense in that spell.
That's strikeout number 8 for Sale.
Out in front is Jimmy Paredes. That changeup has been effective from Sale. He'll drop it from 95 to about 85.
Well, he's a tough pitcher no matter which way a hitter bats. And Dominguez took a line drive over the second baseman Beckham into right center field for one of the 2 Astros hits. Double play set up right now as the throw goes over to first. Well, Sale in his first 40 career starts is 22-12 with a 2.95 ERA. Since the DH came around in 1973, only 4 other pitchers who came up in the American League have had as many wins and an ERA below 3 in their first 40 starts. In the air, and the right fielder comes in. Alex Rios underneath it. 2 outs. So those 4 would be Mark Fidrich, Ron Guidry, Mike Boddicker, and Scott Erickson.
That is a rather impressive list. And when Mark Fidrich came on the scene, he couldn't blow you away, but he threw hard enough, and he spotted it. He was Greg Maddux-like.
What a sensation he was.
He was the guy who was perceived to be talking to the baseball. He would kneel and manicure the mound with his hands, and it was fun for the fans. It was a little frustrating as opposition hitters.
He put on a show, and it was not for that reason that he did it.
No, it's who he was.
Trevor Crowe. Ball 1 to Trevor. He struck out in the 3rd.
And we might add that he looked like he would last forever. And the arm went south, and the great show with Mark Fidrich came to an end way too quickly.
It really did. Fans love watching that guy pitch. That one bounces up there, and it looks like his spike's caught as he stepped toward home plate with that delivery for Chris Sale, and that'll be a wild pitch getting Cedeno into scoring position.
Really wondering what the sign for this pitch is. There's that smile that says, I know I'm going to be on highlights all week long. Flowers is thinking, I didn't call for that. You know, that's one where some guys might hang on to the baseball. You're going to get the balk call anyway. Sale tried to do the right thing.
Looked like one of those when a bowler goes to deliver the ball and there's gum on the bottom of his bowling shoe. It's 3-0. Altuve stole second in the first inning, and now this is the second Astro runner to reach second base. Barnes on deck. And a walk puts Crowe at first, with Barnes coming up for the 3rd time. That's the first walk for Sale. That's a great ratio of walks to strikeouts. 19 walks, 80 strikeouts. Brendan Barnes has struck out, swinging in the first and looking in the 3rd. Now the 3rd time around, and this is a learning curve that the Astros hitters have been trying to master all season long. They're looking at guys for the first time ever and hoping that maybe that 3rd or 4th at bat in the game will get them what they need. 63 pitches, 43 of it strikes for Sale.
That was that meeting at the mound where the catcher said, how did you hold that pitch? Don't do it again.
Well, Sale earlier this season had a 28-inning scoreless streak. That's the longest in the majors. Barnes lays off. There's ball 1 to Brandon.
And then it makes you ask yourself if Oral Hershiser and Don Drysdale and what Bob Gibson, that they all went in that upper 50s. Did Hershiser get to 60 consecutive innings?
He got
it was in that range.
59 something, 59? I think it was. Yeah, 59 or 60.
Isn't that incredible?
It was absolutely unbelievable. And it took an extra inning game to get him there. That one almost hit Barnes. He moved his right leg out of the way as ball 2 passed by it.
Well, when Don Drysdale took that initial mark, I believe, to 56 2/3 or something like that, as this one just completely gets away. It took a hit batter with the bases loaded, Dick Dietz, being hit by the pitch and the home plate umpire saying, no, you didn't try to get out of the way.
That's right.
And that's what salvaged that one for a period of time.
Now 2-0. And Barnes is taking 2 balls and a strike to Brandon. That wasn't your ideal 2-0 pitch to focus in on. Didn't catch that much of the plate.
Well, you could say, I'm going to get my fastball right here and juice it, and you wouldn't be able to do anything with this one.
Ramirez to second. He throws it away. And Cedeno will come home to score the tying run. As Ramirez threw it wide of second base, Gordon Beckham was unable to make the catch. He really gunned that throw, and it was not on target, and the game is tied 1-1.
You know, that was a tough dilemma at shortstop for Ramirez. He knows Brandon Barnes runs well going down the line. Was that the better chance to throw to first base? As he turns to second, he also knows that he's got a close play setting up. So he's got to hump it up, and in doing so, just makes a poor throw. I don't know, watching that replay, if they get the out.
Didn't look like it. Trevor Crowe had beaten the play, it appeared. Maybe not. It was close, but Crowe got down there quickly.
That was going to be a bang-bang scenario.
Well, it's the second error of the inning. Charge to Alexi Ramirez. Pitching coach Don Cooper went out as the score is tied now at 1. Runners at first and third.
Yeah, when a club's hurting, they make some errors behind a pitcher who's pitching well. Make them hurt some more.
2 Alexi Ramirez miscues, and now it's 1-1. And the batter's Jose Altuve, who's 1 for 2. Altuve backs away, and it's ball 1. Brandon Barnes has 4 stolen bases in 8 attempts. Well, Crowe really hustling into second base. Was able to get to third then as he popped up and the throw going into right field. Well, it's been the Astros who have been victimized by a lot of errors in recent games. They have made 51 errors. They've allowed 32 unearned runs this year. White Sox have made 42 errors. Crowe takes a look at Keppinger, who's creeping in. Altuve with a 1-1 count now.
It's one of the things you hear of the White Sox is that a year ago they allowed the fewest unearned runs in the league. And now they've turned around. They've become sloppy. A lot of people just feel like the White Sox not only have become a club that's not swinging the bats well, but they're just sloppy. They're doing things defensively and on the base paths that don't look like the club of a year ago.
Keppinger gets up, throws high, safe, and the Astros take the lead 2-1. Altuve beats it out at first. It was a high throw from Keppinger, who left his feet, and Trevor Crowe scored run number 2.
That's how you make them hurt. Little infield single. Guys will be grumbling about the fact, well, look at the inning when they scored. They didn't do anything. We gave it to them. Well, yeah, that makes it hurt all the more. And that speed of Altuve getting out of the box, able to come up with that key second run in the inning.
Altuve's credited with a hit, his second of the night. And that gives him an RBI as well, as 27th. And now a foul ball back by J.D. Martinez for strike 1. The Astros have hit 1 ball out of the infield. Dominguez with a fly ball to right in the inning, and yet they've scored a couple of runs thanks to the 2 errors by Ramirez. We go back over the inning. Crowe drew a 2-out walk. Everything adds up to a lot of trouble here for the White Sox. It's a 1-1 count and a long inning for Alexi Ramirez with the 2 miscues. Not chasing. JD takes a look at ball 2.
And again, it's all the more frustrating for the White Sox because in Alexi Ramirez, they have felt, and I don't know that they don't feel this way anymore, that they have one of the game's gifted shortstops.
Well, the gift has been thrown the Astros' way here. They have had a couple of gift runs in the 5th inning. Now backing away, J.D. Martinez with a 2-1 count. Boy, and if you're Robin Ventura and Don Cooper, you're shaking their head. Of course, it's only the 5th inning, but wow. Chris Sale on the mound really dealing tonight. Now we're down 2-1. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Just hate to waste an outstanding start, and the Astros can relate to that because they've done that a fair number of times themselves.
And again, you need go no further back than that recent 6-game losing streak. A lot of good starting pitching, very little hitting, poor defense.
Runners are moving. It's strike 3 call to end the Astros 5th. 7 Astros come to the plate, and they get the tying and go-ahead run across to take a 2-1 lead through 5. Energy play of the day. There are 2 of them. There was some energy on the bases. There's a ball to Ramirez right. He throws it away at second. And the Astros tie it on a Ronnie Cedeno run. And then the diving play by Keppinger, but the throw is high and late. Altuve gets an RBI single, and it's 2-1. Both runs unearned in the inning after the 2 errors by Ramirez. So it's a 9 strikeout effort through 5 for Chris Sale, but the White Sox trail it 2-1. They bat in this 6th inning. Paul Konerko leading it off. Konerko has walked and doubled to left field. A ground ball right over the 3rd base bag. And Bedard deals ball 1.
The game looking for its first earned run of the night.
Yeah.
And you know, statistically, the way things have gone this year, I guess this game feels maybe to some people down there like it's just falling right into that corner that the clubs have painted themselves in.
Liner over at 3rd. This time will be foul. 1-1. Yeah, if you were to ask people on both those benches, have you guys had a lot of games like this? You'd probably get a whole lot of heads nodding.
Yeah, I wonder how the players would respond. I was actually thinking maybe what I should have said is people who follow the team. Those are the ones that get that kind of that pessimistic feel about the way things are going. Broadcasters will talk about their club, and here's what's been going wrong of late.
Now, how about the guys who play the game, and you're, almost 60 games into the season? Are you saying this is an individual game here? I'm not bringing any of the baggage from the last 2 weeks or the last 2 months into this game. Or are you saying, boy, this feels familiar?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both, and I think it depends on who you talk to.
This will hang up into left center field as Trevor Crowe gets underneath it.
I think the really good players, the guys who are stand-up guys, will tell you the truth. But I think some of the other guys will actually try to deceive themselves and say everything's going just fine. We're playing hard. We're grinding. We're doing what we're supposed to do. But in reality, they're not accomplishing any of those deeds. I think that sometimes that's the obstacle that has to be overcome by a club that's not playing well.
Jose Cisnero warming up for Houston. Ball one to Adam Dunn, who has a walk and a sac fly.
Well, that's a pretty good looking pitch.
Yeah, his curveball has been very good.
Look, if you're not aware as a player and as a group of players of what you're doing wrong, you're probably not ultimately capable of fixing it, obviously, if you don't know you're doing it wrong, and then becoming better.
Well, you don't want to look at the game through rose-colored sunglasses.
I think sometimes there's a tendency to want to do so because it makes you all feel better about yourselves, but you do have to deal with problems.
Out to center field on the 100th pitch by Eric Bedard. Caught by Brandon Barnes, 2 outs. Season high for Bedard, and pitches thrown. And Cisnero warming up, so this could be the final inning for Eric. Not the sort who wants to come out of games. But the way things are looking tonight, and the Astros do have a pretty well rested bullpen after the day off and after the starters going deep into several games, this might be all that would be asked of him if he can get Viciedo here. He drops that one in for strike one. Viciedo with 2 fly ball outs in this game.
I think Eric Bedard has actually been a big pleasant surprise for the club.
He's been a nice addition, hasn't he?
And the only reason I say surprise is because back in the spring, he was unable to stay healthy enough to get out there and even pitch. And so starting the year, I found myself wondering, at his age, has he reached that stage of things where it's just not going to happen? But he has made it happen.
He's resourceful. Tries for another call inside, and it's 1-2.
Paintbrush he's been using on the inside edge must be loaded with paint at this point because he's not getting much off of there.
It's not the thick brush, is it? A lot of good pitches. 2 hopper. Cedeno takes extra time, gets the out. It's a 1-2-3 6th inning and a 2-1 Houston lead. Scotch Blue Painter's Tape. Scotch Blue, see what you can do. You've been talking about painting all night. Let's look at Eric Bedard.
He's worked it very well. Giving up only an unearned run. That curveball picking up strikeouts, sweeping it off the plate. Fastball's well spotted. He's mixed it all around. Changeup has been a key. Eric Bedard, other than that last start where he got roughed up a bit, well, he's just been a steady, solid starter.
Foul ball by Carlos Corporate. He's struck out twice tonight. Sale begins his 6th inning of work. He's at 75 pitches. Eric Bedard's thrown 104. We think that his night has come to an end. And if so, he had a very nice finish. Retired the last 4. He struck out 6. He walked 3. Has allowed only an unearned run. It's 0-2. Meanwhile, Sale has walked 1 and struck out 9. And he's on the trailing end in this 2-1 game.
Carlos Corporon kind of walking around the home plate area again, as he often does. And I just don't understand why baseball doesn't try to alter that a bit.
Well, as a matter of fact, there was an article about that today.
I should take a bit out of that, because I just don't believe it's in the best interest of baseball to keep taking time up there, whether it be on the mound or around home plate.
That's 10 strikeouts for Chris Sale.
Chris Sale is just pumping it up and making life tough on not only Carlos Corporon, but other Astros hitters on the night.
Really competing, but his run support has been the worst in the American League this year, and this game is falling right into that trend for Chris Sale. Now Chris Carter, who struck out and lined out, takes strike 1.
So you're going to try to tell me you've got some follow-up on this long game issue, huh?
In 1972, the average time of game was 2 hours and 23 minutes.
Wow. 2:23?
2:23.
That is what you call a really quick one these days.
By the year 2000, the average game time was 2:58. 1-2. And right now, it's 2:58.
So, are there any people, I've never heard a person say they think that the game is justified in the length of the games, and especially when you get into postseason play and you start playing 3.5 to 4.5 hour games.
2-2. Well, you have to, I think, ask what entertains the fans.
Oh man, do you?
What do they want to see?
Could not agree more.
Sale gets strikeout number 11.
You see what the PGA is doing these days with the commercials while we're young. We've even got Arnold Palmer stepping out and trying to tell Clint Eastwood to get his act moving. And Clint Eastwood gives him the Dirty Harry stare back, and Arnie has to avert his eyes. He can't take the glare.
Make my day, Arnie.
There's that breaking ball from Sale, creating another tough day.
Ronnie Cedeno got things going in the 5th inning. He reached on the first of 2 errors by Alexi Ramirez and came around to score the tying run. He lined out in the 2nd inning with a good swing, caught by Gordon Beckham. Well, by 2012, teams were averaging, the two teams combined, 8 relievers per game. So that had driven the time of game up to 2:56. That's not the only factor.
Look, by the way, at how Sale, while Cedeno stayed in the box, and of course, as soon as I start to say it, Ronnie takes a walk, but how Sale was ready to go and ready to pitch and brought another strike.
Right. You won't see any offenders in this game tonight. On time of game 1-2. It's been a pretty well-paced ball game.
Now, Sale, again, is doing a great job. It's just, shouldn't that pitcher be enabled to pitch as he's ready to do so?
Fly ball out to center field. Casper Wells puts it away. And through 6, it's 2-1 Astros. While we do, let's take a look at Sunday's pitching matchup. That is our next telecast here on Comcast Sportsnet. It's brought to you by Chevron. Care for your car. It's Hector Santiago, another of the 4 lefties being started by Robin Ventura for the White Sox in this 4-game series. He's 2-4 with 3.12, and the Astros will counter with a second lefty of their own in this series, Dallas Keuchel. He's 3-3 with a 4.67. And that's 12:30 for Astros pregame live. Now, Jose Cisnero comes out of the Astros bullpen, and he's had plenty of rest since his last outing. He's 1-0 with a 2.67 ERA.
He has been a revelation at times, and a guy who wants to be a starter, but well, what a value he is shown to have. And he's so projectable in the back end of a bullpen. If you have a successful bullpen and team winning ball games, can you just see this arm in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning? Any one of those innings, he could set up very, very well.
He really could fit in a number of ways. His last outing was here June 6th against Baltimore, and throws a cut fastball. Jeff Keppinger hits it in the air, and the center fielder Brandon Barnes puts it away. 1 pitch, 1 out for Jose Cisnero. After Eric Bedard goes 6, giving up 3 hits, 1 run, no earned runs, walking 3, fanning 6. Casper Wells will follow. Cisnero just seems to be very composed here in his rookie season. As Ash mentioned, he was a starter, but he's been used successfully in relief 11 times. Wells, who has singled and walked, takes a look at it. It's ball 1 to Wells. That's an easy movement on that 94-mile-per-hour heater for a 1-ball, 1-strike count.
Don't you hate it when rapid-paced baseball doesn't allow you the chance to talk about the misgivings of slow baseball?
It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to talk about slow games, and the game is moving too quickly to talk about them. 1 and 2. Keep it up, guys. Good entertaining ball game tonight. Altuve to his right. And he slings it across to Carter out number 2. Well, there is a rule, 804. That a pitcher should throw a pitch within 12 seconds with nobody on base.
Why is that rule not enforced?
That is a real question.
And if that pitcher has that mandate and it's forced upon the players, then if he throws the pitch, and I remember seeing it happen years ago, maybe decades ago, if the hitter wants to take his walk, so be it. But we're going to go ahead and call strikes at home plate.
Right.
And therefore forcing hitters to stay in the box and play the ball game. Baseball is fantastic when played.
Flowers with a bouncer. There's a diving stop by Dominguez, throwing from a knee. Safe at first. Carter unable to corral that 1-hop throw on the backhand side. That would have been one spectacular out, but Carter could not come up with the 1-hop throw to the backhand side, so Flowers is on with 2 outs.
The toughest throw to pick is the tweener. The long one is easy, the short one is easy, but that one in between will just eat you alive, and Matt Dominguez can make some defensive plays. But this kind of one of those in-between hops, and more often than not, those are the ones that will give first baseman very difficult times. Chris Carter hasn't quite established himself as a defensive gem first baseman yet.
Ruled a single by Flowers. Now Gordon Beckham takes a look at it. It's ball 1 to Beckham. There is Rule 602D, Ash. Batters may not leave the box if they did not swing at the previous pitch.
So if they foul it off, they have the right to leave the box.
Yep.
But how do you make that work along with the previous rule?
Line drive hit to left field by Beckham.
Pitcher gets the ball back, and he's supposed to throw within 12 seconds, and that guy's taking a little stroll.
Right.
Well, yeah, I like the first one. I like the second, but not with the caveat of if he didn't swing the bat.
Now, with this White Sox team stirring up trouble with the 2 out singles, it's Alexi Ramirez coming up next. Cisnero meeting with Corbin and Jose Altuve.
Yeah, that's very good stuff, Brownie. And I would love to see the commish or somebody step in and say, look, we're going to go ahead and enforce those rules as well as the strike zone rule.
Will Porter hoping Cisnero can get Ramirez to protect this 2-1 lead. Alexi single to right in the 5th inning. He's 1 for 3. Well, Mike Napoli is one of those hitters who takes the most time at home plate. He digs a hole with his foot in the batter's box, about halfway to China.
Bob Gibson probably could have taken care of that.
Yeah, he'd probably be in China if Gibson had been pitching.
Or wishing he was in China at the time.
Yeah. The outside ball one. Well, Napoli has been known to take 39.5 seconds in 4 at-bats, digging with his feet in the batter's box.
Well, I think that's good quality air time for the kids.
Sure it is.
Yeah, getting the kids to be able to latch onto this game and find some interest, I think, is crucial. And there are other faster-paced things going on that kids seem to glom onto, but I think it's crucial.
Now 2 balls, no strikes, and Cisnero needs to come up with something here. Rockies game should be moving along faster because Troy Tulowitzki takes the most time between pitches in the National League, 28 seconds on the average. And he's hurt now.
Well, he's not going to be my favorite player in that league anymore.
What a year he's having, though. It's a real shame for them, and unfortunately a pattern for the Rockies, losing Tulowitzki for large blocks of time. This is a broken rib. Travis Blackley's warming up for Houston now as Cisnero, who's gotten the first 2, tries to come up with a 2-0 pitch on Ramirez. The 2 men reaching now on singles with 2 outs. And the foul ball takes it to 2-1.
I guess Tulowitzki, if it were true, wouldn't acknowledge that he broke a rib falling downstairs. I guess that would seem a little old of him if he did that.
Oh, yeah. Blackley warming up. And that's how to play for a 2-ball, 2-strike count. You know, it's been interesting to watch Bo Porter use different guys in situations like this. Sometimes it'll be Paul Clemens in the 7th inning with a 1-run lead.
Another guy that's done a great job.
But, a number of different relievers have had opportunities here late in games, in tight ball games. So in a situation of several different guys acquiring that experience. Bouncer, and there's Dominguez getting it 2 out, 2 back. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left. 7th inning stretch time. 2-1 Astros.
effort. Check out Sportsnet Central 7 days a week at 6, 10, and midnight on Comcast Sportsnet, your home of your home teams. Welcome you back out to Minute Maid Park. We want to take a quick look at the farm system. In particular, a guy named Jonathan Singleton, the first baseman who split time between Quad Cities and Corpus since returning from a suspension. And wow, he's been good. 15 games, hitting .302, 5 homers, including 2 last night for the Corpus Christi Hooks as they went on to win 7-1 over the Rough Riders. Not bad numbers for this kid, guys.
Well, everybody, of course, is taking a look at those numbers. Everybody who follows the Astros and their prospects closely. So Jonathan Singleton certainly is attracting a lot of attention. And also that Corpus Christi team. Now 2-1 as Jimmy Paredes moves back from ball 1. Jimmy 0 for 2 with a ground out and a strikeout. So with the 2 home run game from Singleton last night, the Hooks won 7-1 over Frisco. They need one more win to clinch the first half title in the Texas League. And they currently have the best record in the Texas League, 41-25, a .621 winning percentage. 2-0 for Chris Sale. He's thrown 89 pitches now, 59 have been strikes. 2-1 to Jimmy Paredes. Jimmy is hitting .056 in the month of June coming into this game, and he's 0 for 2 tonight. A little slicing foul ball goes into the seats, and it's a 2-ball, 2-strike count.
You know, I think that probably the best way I could think of to teach guys on the minor league level to become good quality major league level players is to teach them to win. That winning is all it's about.
Good point. Strikeout number 12. And that's exactly what the Astros' objective is. And remembering back several years ago, that was the same case.
I don't know where Jimmy's going right here, but that fastball has been overpowering much of the night.
Sale's not losing much.
Other than potentially the ball game.
True. 12 strikeouts. He's tied a season high. Breaks that one in, and it's strike 1 to Matt Dominguez.
A great leadoff pitch. You don't have to throw for the corners on the breaking ball to start a hitter. Hitters are looking fastball.
Out to Beckham. You know, the other point about that pitch is that against a right-handed batter with that delivery, when he drops down like that, he's starting that breaking ball well outside. So the right-handed batter's going to take that pitch.
Great chance that that's on the money, no doubt about it. But again, I'll say, and you can look at stats year after year. First pitch, what is that number for a given pitcher or for a given hitter? And in most cases, it's 300, 400, sometimes 500 plus. And that's because of the old theory, the axiom of throw a first pitch fastball for a strike. Hitters have got that figured out, and they're pretty good fastball hitters, and they tend to hit it well. Now, if you mix it around as Sale has done tonight and have an exceptional fastball on top of that, likely you're going to succeed there where others fail. Love his pacing as well.
He's pitched a day in the game.
You watch how when he gets the ball back, it's about business. Here we go. Let's go ahead and play some baseball.
Crow with a big cut goes to a 1-2 count. Trevor walked and scored an important run in the 5th inning. That was the go-ahead run.
Heater has steadily been 95.
He is quite a talent, and just 24 years old, from Lakeland, Florida, Florida Gulf Coast University. That's that breaking ball. It's got to be tough to gauge a right-handed batter.
Would have liked to have seen what the velocity on the fastball for Sale was when he come in for an inning from the bullpen. If you can go 95 for 7+ innings as a starter, in one inning, there's a pretty good chance you can run it up there near that 100 mark.
Yeah. It's 2-2.
Reach back, still comes up with 95. Pretty steady in that range.
100 pitches, 67 strikes. 2 unearned runs, both scoring with a couple of errors from Alexi Ramirez in that 2-run 5th. And now Crow takes it full.
Then he throws that changeup out of that same delivery. And I mean, he trusts the grip. It's not one of those guys that slows the arm down a little bit. maybe trying to feel for the strike zone. He just trusts the grip, throws it as hard as he can, and takes off about 10 miles per hour.
Brandon Barnes is on deck. Liner into right field. What a great job by Trevor Crowe. Second time he's reached here as he pokes that line drive single the other way.
There are times in the big leagues this is all you're going to get. Just reach out and spoil a pitch on the black. You can't do it consistently, but guys that can do it on a semi-consistent basis can really be quality hitters.
Now Brandon Barnes, who's 0 for 3, is the batter. He hit the ground ball with 2 outs to Alexi Ramirez, and that wound up being the tying run in this game. As the ball was thrown away at second base. Strike to Barnes. Well, you know, in a game like this, and these two teams have had plenty of tight ball games this year, low scoring games, a little thing like maybe Trevor Crowe got a little bit larger lead before that pitch when Barnes hit the ground ball. Maybe that allowed him to get into second just a fraction of a second quicker and be safe, and then the ball was thrown away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Attention to detail. That's what everybody in baseball is trying to do as far as coaches and managers to help them out in tight ball games. Well, the outfield alignment's going to be interesting to look at once Justin Maxwell returns, and he is not going to necessarily be the starting center fielder. Bo Porter reiterated that tonight before the game. He said Brandon Barnes has played very well in center. That's why we want Maxwell to play some right field as well in the minors. Runner going, swing and a miss. The ball pops out of the hand of Flowers, and that's a stolen base by Crowe, his second of the year.
And I think the biggest difference I can see between Brandon Barnes and Justin Maxwell would be the Maxwell home run ability, and that makes him be able to be more of that corner outfielder in terms of what's expected with the bat. Brandon Barnes has, I think, yet to show maybe what he is or can be on the big league level. We have seen some power, though.
Seen a lot of good things. You're right.
But they can both go get it defensively.
Who would you rate ahead of the other?
I don't know, because I haven't seen enough of Justin Maxwell. What I have seen is that Brandon Barnes can go gap to gap and play it very well. Now, I don't want to say he's the highlight reel center fielder in the league. I will say that he can play with guys who play center field in the major leagues. And for me, that makes him viable, but that bat has got to be viable as well.
Crowe takes off for third, and here's a throw, not in time. He stole second, now he steals third. Number 3 of the year.
Trevor Crowe at the minor league level in Oak City, when he got called up, was leading that club in stolen bases. So he can steal a bag, and he's an aggressive player.
Just beat the tag. That's strike 3. And that ends the Astros 7th with no runs a hit and a runner stranded at third. And that is 13 strikeouts for Sale, the 2-1 Astros. By MD Anderson, making cancer history. That's right after the ball game tonight. Eric Young back in the studio. He's had a nice little break. He and Bill Dolman getting the show ready for you right now. And so far they have highlights assembled from a 2-1 ball game, but they do not have any well, they have runs, but no earned runs set up. All the runs are unearned of the 3 scored in this ball game.
Very well pitched tonight. Not so well defended. Chris Sale, wow, 13 punch-outs in 7 innings.
Alex Rios leads it off against Jose Cisnero, who delivers strike 1.
But that said, how about Eric Bedard and the job he did tonight?
6 innings of no earned run baseball. No balls, 2 strikes.
That takes his ERA right down to 4.82. He's been whittling away.
You know, I think he's pitched better than that.
It's felt like it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has felt like it. At strike 3, it's a fastball steams in, and Rios looks back at Paul Nauert.
Does this find corner or not? Catcher setting up away. That ball runs back and probably finds more plate than Cisnero or Carlos Corporon wanted to see.
Right. So Rios is punched out, and that's strikeout number 7 for Astros pitchers. They have Blackley and Hector Ambrose warming up. And it's Paul Konerko. He has a walk, a double, and a fly ball. And a quick little slider or cutter for strike 1.
Great leadoff pitch, by the way.
It was. 20,496 is tonight's attendance on a big and bright Friday night. That's a shot into center field. Right back through the middle for Paul Konerko, and he's on for the 3rd time tonight.
I think a lot of people think of Paul Konerko as a home run hitter, and he is. But he's been a really good hitter through his career.
Now we'll get a pitching change with the lefty hitting Adam Dunn coming up next. Cisnero gives up the baseball. He goes an inning and a third. He gives up 3 hits. And we'll be right back. Side of their bullpen with Travis Blackley coming in after Jose Cisnero worked an inning and a third. Blackley coming in to face Adam Dunn, who bats left. Travis has an ERA 3.66.
Yeah, that 156 mark is the one that stands out against left-hand hitters. Done a good job in that regard. And it's a big time to have that work out in your favor if you're Travis Blackley.
And parlay that with the fact that Dunn has hit 100 against left-handed pitching. And that's the lefty-on-lefty matchup. Dunn, though, did deliver a sacrifice fly in the 4th inning. He's 0 for 1, has a walk as well. 1 out. It's Paul Konerko on at first base. And Diane Viciedo is in the on-deck circle. So it could be a 1-batter relief appearance for Blackley, depending upon what happens here. Ideally for him, it would be a double play ball. But Hector Ambrose has been warming up as well from the right side. Ball 1 to Dunn. Blackley worked in the 6-1 win Wednesday night in Seattle. He worked 2/3 of an inning. He allowed 1 hit, no runs. Came in with a couple of men on base. One of them scored. The run was not charged to him. Nick Franklin RBI single. He's come in with more men on base than any other Astros reliever. Now Wesley Wright has replaced Blackley from the left side in the bullpen alongside Hector Ambrose. 22 runners have been inherited by Travis Blackley. That's the high on the Astros, and only 5 of those 22 have come around to score. That's a strike to Dunn, and it's 1-1 to Adam. Adam was a second-round pick of the Reds in '98. After a terrific high school career as a quarterback at New Caney. Had designs of being a UT quarterback. Bounce to first. Carter gets the out there. Now the throw and the tag on Canerco by Ronnie Cedeno. And there's the double play for Travis Blackley. No runs, a hit, nobody left. Middle of the 8th inning. It's 2-1 Houston. Let's see a double play ball on demand from Travis Blackley. Dunn hits the grounder to first. Chris Carter steps on the bag, throws for the tag by Cedeno on Canerco, and that's a 3-6 double play.
Can you fault a guy, Adam Dunn, for not coming out of the box right there? He was out before he could take that first stride. That one hopper to first and Carter stepping on the bag.
No point in running when you're already out.
You can go ahead and run and try to make it look good for the highlight reel.
That was quick.
You can just box it up and send it back to the dugout.
Jose Altuve, Chris Sale is still in this ball game. He's not bloody, he's not bowed, but he's pitching well and still trailing 2-1. And Altuve has 2 of the 4 hits he's allowed, taking that one for ball 1. It's been a tough luck night for Chris Sale. Altuve drove in the go-ahead run with an infield hit. He also has a single to left field, and this one in the air going foul and out of play for a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Sale has walked 1, and then one came back to bite him because it was a 2-out walk to Trevor Crowe, who scored the eventual go-ahead run on the Altuve single, and he struck out 13. And you have bullpen action there for the Sox as that one's fouled away. It's a 1-ball, 2-strike count. Nate Jones is one of those pitchers. That's Nate Jones, number 65. And Jesse Crane of the University of Houston's the hot hand in that bullpen, one of them anyway, for the Sox. He has a string of 25 1/3 scoreless innings in relief for Chicago. Well, the Astros hoping for insurance here for the 9th inning. Altuve at the plate with a 1-2 count, and Sale's thrown 111 pitches. It's been a really delectable pitching duel tonight. Fly ball hanging up into shallow right. Rios in. 1 out.
Chris Sale, we talked about 5 and 4 at the start of play tonight, but it's really all about the fact he hasn't gotten run support tonight. He hasn't got defensive support. 13 strikeouts. Wicked fastball at 95 all over the place. Sliders, changeups. About as tough as any left-hander I think we've seen all year.
And yet he could be 5 and 5 by the end of the night.
Yeah.
All the way.
Just it's incredible. And if ever there was a case for legally suing your teammates, Chris Sale might have that one.
The non-support has certainly been there. He's walked 1. He's fanned 13. He's given up 200 runs, 113 pitches. He's been dazzling. It's rolled out to second. Beckham takes care of out number 2. Sale's major league strikeout high in a game, 15. Last year that was in 7 1/3 innings. The 13 tonight is his 2013 strikeout high. And 3 times he's whipped Carlos Corberán. Robin Ventura talking it over on the bench. His bench coach is Mark Parent there with the arms folded. Mark did a lot of catching for the San Diego Padres back in the late 80s. It had always seemed when the Padres came into the Astrodome or the Astros visited San Diego, he got a start in this series and he drove in about 3 or 4 runs. He had some of his best games ever against the Astros. Strike to Corberán.
Three punch-outs on the night. That's not a friendly night, but when you turn that sombrero golden, that's when you know you've had a rough one.
That's a liner in the right and a hit in front of Rios. Well, he stomped all over that sombrero before he could be fitted, and there's a 2-out hit.
Take that for talking about my sombrero. Yeah. Not only is Sale tough, but when he's just on the down and away edge like that, awfully tough. Carlos Corberán has been that hot of a hitter.
Now Chris Carter, he's 0 for 3. Lined out to a leaping Alexi Ramirez in the 4th. And that's ball 1. Boy, Mike Fast did some very quick draft research tonight. Bud Norris was posing a question about how many first-rounders have reached the big leagues and how many have stayed for 3 years. 1 ball, 1 strike. A very intriguing question.
And you said you would have placed your guess at about 30%.
Yeah, guess what the answer is?
Wow, I'm not looking at it. I would have placed my guess somewhere around probably 30-35%.
The percentage of first-rounders who have appeared at least 3 years in the majors is 63%.
Oh, wow.
That is really surprising.
I'll give you some logic there, at least from my perspective. When a team drafts a guy first round, even if he fails miserably at the minor league level, at some point he'll get a chance to come to the big leagues. Now, the tough part is staying, and that's where that stat really surprises me.
Yes. 2 and 2, and that's what we were discussing. You know, because of the high investment in a first-round pick, most major league clubs are going to make sure that guy gets to the big leagues.
That guy will get pushed along. There is no question he'll get a much better look than a guy who was drafted in the 10th round or above.
From 1990 through 2006, 72% of first-rounders have played at least 1 game in the majors.
Yeah, that stat may not surprise me all that much.
Okay, here's the breakdown. High school first-rounders, 65% play at least one game in the majors.
Yeah, they're a little bit more of a roll on the crap table, I think.
College first rounders, 79% play at least one game.
I think you should know a little bit more what you have with that college guy.
But very good research by Mike Fast. Mike Fast was fast.
That's quick quality right there.
He and the umpire Jim Quick should get together.
Ooh, wow.
If they got together for a meal, it would be a liquid meal, wouldn't it?
There would definitely be a blender involved, I'm sure.
That's strike three, and it's strikeout number 14 for Chris Sale. We go to the ninth inning, 2-1 Astros. To you by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. And by Joseph A. Bank. We fit everyone. Visit josephabank.com. It's 2-1. The Astros lead, and they bring in their closer, Jose Veras, for the ninth inning with Biciedo, Keppinger, and Wells due to bat for Robin Ventura's White Sox. Jose Veras 0-4 with a 3.86 ERA, has 11 saves in 14 opportunities.
Been really tough on left-hand hitters, and yet you can see the right-hand hitters have even struggled more. 189. Got a nice assortment of pitches, and he certainly is a guy who likes to throw that big slider of his. MLB.TV celebrates 11 years with new lowly year. Not lowly, they're just simply low yearly prices. Watch every out-of-market game live on over 350 supported mobile and connected devices in HD quality with MLB.TV Premium. Visit MLB.TV. Baseball everywhere.
Very entertaining ball game tonight. 20,496. And they'll be treated to fireworks after the game on a big and bright Friday. How will it end? Jose Veras wants it to end with save number 12 for him. 2-1 is his lead as Diane Biciedo steps up in the ninth inning, 0-for-3. Jeff Keppinger is on deck. Casper Wells due up third. Left-handed pinch hitters are available on the bench, 3 of them for Robin Ventura. And it's ball one. Travis Blackley in 2/3 of an inning allowed no hits, no runs, had no walks or strikeouts. Jose Cisnero went an inning and a third. He allowed 3 hits, no runs. He didn't walk anybody. Had 1 strikeout. Veras is pitcher number 4 for Houston after Eric Bedard was the starter. 2 balls, no strikes now for Jose Veras. He tossed his scoreless inning at Seattle Tuesday. And his last 5 appearances have resulted in no runs allowed over 5 innings. 6 hits for the Sox, 5 for the Astros. That's in for a strike. That makes it 2-1 to Viciedo. We have Hawk Harrelson in town doing White Sox on TV. A real icon in Chicago television.
You can put it on the board. Yes.
That's in front of the board, and Trevor Crowe comes in, and you can put it down as an F7 for Viciedo as well. The Hawks are very entertaining and nice guy.
Yes, he is. Got a heck of a golf game as well.
You know, he was saying that the weather has been worse in Chicago than anything he has ever seen, even from his playing days, and he was with the Red Sox for years. They've had postponements, they've had cold weather. He said it's been so tough to hit in those games in Chicago. They had a lot of fog the other night. Can't believe they could even see the baseball from some of those highlights the other night.
Ken Harrelson, who was a home run hitter, good hitter in baseball, tried to take his golf game out to the PGA Tour.
How'd that go?
Apparently, broadcasting has worked out as a little bit more of a longevity job.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of athletes in a bunch of sports that think they can play golf, but those guys are pretty good. I think that's the way the commercial's gone. Those guys are good.
Well, Johnny Bench, of course, has been out trying to play competitive golf for years after retiring. John Smoltz, very good golfer.
John Smoltz, I think, maybe might have had a notion that he could pull that off.
Yeah, I think he thought about competing or tried that in the initial stages a few times.
A 2-0 count to start hitters, not the way you want to deal in the 9th inning. Rick Rhoden was a guy who played briefly in Houston, had a very good golf game.
He's won senior tournaments on that one tour, not the senior PGA,
right?
Celebrity.
Right. But he has played, I believe, on the senior tour in events. Yeah, Rick could really play.
Now 3-1. And Veras is playing with some fire falling behind these first two hitters, as you mentioned.
There are games where he has come in and just been in the strike zone. There are others where he's been just like this, where it feels like, well, this is not what you want to see.
Now a walk to Keppinger, only his third walk of the year. Sets it up for a pinch hitter for the White Sox. Casper Wells has been called back.
You know, if you allow base hits, that's not much you can do about it a lot of the time. But when you put guys on with the free pass, you're just asking for problems.
Connor Gillespie is the pinch hitter. Left-handed hitting third baseman, and we get a pinch runner at first. It's Jordan Danks. Keppinger leaves, and the White Sox down to their final 2 outs. Pinch run and pinch hit. Gillespie, a former member of the San Francisco Giants, checks in at 248 with 4 homers. He's driven in 14. He's on 165 at bats. 0 for 2 pinch hitting. This one rolls away, but not very far from Carlos Corcoran.
And once again falling behind. Very uncomfy when that happens.
Gillespie has 41 hits, and that is first among American League rookies. He's played in 55 games. Brent Morrell played a lot of third for the White Sox in recent years. That's in for a strike, and it's 1-1, Connor Gillespie. Jose Veras trying to close it out. Eric Bedard has found victories tough to come by. Win number 2 of the year on the line for Eric. He's pitched well in games and not gotten victories. In one game he came out after 4 innings with a huge lead, didn't qualify for the win. Now it's 2-1. Must be. He's 25 years old. He was born in Omaha and went to Wichita State. He was the first player from the 08 draft to reach the majors. He was a sandwich pick, the 37th player drafted overall. He made it for 5 at-bats with the Giants in 08, but then was in the minors the next 2 years before he resurfaced. Now it's 3 balls and a strike.
Before you leave that bullpen, the last thing you've got to be able to do is make sure you can throw strikes.
A little tension there for Bo Porter and his staff. Throw goes over on the pinch runner Danks. Danks has not attempted a steal. He's had 25 at bats for the White Sox this year.
So why did that throw go over? I always wonder if a pitcher gets to that point where he's just not throwing strikes, has he lost confidence and is unwilling to throw at that point to the plate.
Fly ball, Barnes back in right center field. Underneath it with the catch. 2 outs.
Yeah, that's a nice out to get on a 3-1.
Yeah, it was 2-1 on Viciedo. It was 3-1. Keppinger walked, and it was 3-1. Fly ball. Carlos Corporan going out as Flowers comes up. Alejandro De Aza was in the original starting lineup, but was feeling ill today about 3 o'clock or so after that first lineup card was made out, so he was taken out of the lineup. He's a left-handed batter, and he normally would be available to pinch hit. Don't know if they would pinch hit him for the catcher here, but sounds as if with the upset stomach or whatever it was along those lines, that De Aza probably would be a consideration only if this game stretched on for a while. So it's Flowers batting.
I think there was a caption for me when Carlos Corporan was out to the mound talking with Veras. Each player with a glove over their mouth, the big secret being passed between each other. And I think the caption was, there's no secret here. You got to throw strikes.
So hit my mitt so I don't have to talk into it anymore.
I'm done talking in this bad boy. As a microphone, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's starting to smell also. 1 ball and 1 strike. White Sox have left 7 on base. The Astros have stranded 6. And a breaking ball is in for strike 2.
It's uncanny at times how Jose Veras will come with that slider, and it's a big one, and he'll throw it for strikes. He's done it with 3-ball counts this year.
Fans are up. In the dirt for ball 2.
Carlos Corporan does a really nice job with breaking balls in the dirt. He's found a way to get himself to not use the natural reaction, which is to try to use the glove and catch the ball. Put that glove down, fill the 5-hole, leave it down, and let the body do the work.
Very enthusiastic crowd ready for this one. And a little foul ball. ready for some fireworks as well. But this game has definitely maintained the fans' interest throughout, even though all the runs have been unearned.
Veras goes right back to that slider again. Tough to tell if this is what he calls his slider or curveball. It's a big breaker. Well, vernacular can really shift around from one pitcher to another.
This is only his second appearance since June 5th.
It's the trouble being a closer, is generally you're held back for games when you have a chance to win.
And in the ninth inning, 6-run explosion Wednesday night meant that the Astros did not have to use him to close that one out with a 6-1 lead going to the bottom of the ninth. Runner going on 2-2, swing and a miss. And the Astros start this homestand in a rousing way with a 2-1 win. A victory for Eric Bedard, save for Jose Veras. All the 3 runs were unearned, and the Astros got those 2 in the 5th inning to beat Chris Sale, who's about as tough luck a 5-5 pitcher as you're going to find in the big leagues right now. Final score, Houston 2, the White Sox 1.